Hi guys, this is Hunter with NVX, and today we'll be showing you guys how to wire and tune our Xloc44x and our Xlca2x. We're going to be showing you guys and demonstrating how to hook these up with a factory stereo. Now obviously we do not have a factory stereo with us today, but we're going to be using this Bellevue unit in its place. Now this is just going to be a basic demonstration in how to hook up and tune. So this shouldn't be causing an issue with us today. So let's get started. All right, so first thing you're gonna wanna do after you get your amp mostly hooked up. So currently we have our subwoofer hooked up and a speaker that is also attached with our dash here, just for testing and demonstration purposes. So first thing you're gonna wanna do while you're hooking up your amplifier is grab yourself some speaker wire or some 18 gauge remote wire for power. So what you're gonna do when you're hooking up your amplifier is your 12 volt lead, you're gonna put in the amplifier, and then your power lead. Get those in there together. The reason this is being so difficult is because we hook up several amps to these wires, so it just can be a little tight for us. But usually with these ferrules, they're one-time use. You put them in there and then you can take them in and out the same amplifier. But again, we use these leads to test multiple amplifiers, so it's gonna be a little tight for us today. So I'm just adjusting those. Go. Didn't have it quite far enough in there. Put up the remote wire. So what we're going to be doing basically for this install, we will be using the remote turn on from both of the units to power on the remote lead to turn on the amplifier. So we'll go over those settings with you guys here in a second. All right, so we got our power and remote hooked up to our amplifier, our power from our battery and ground, chassis ground. Now we're gonna run this over to our Xlock. I apologize, Xlca2. We're gonna be hooking this one up first. So, now that we're over here at the Xlca2x, you're gonna wanna strip your leads. Now, since we're going to be using the remote turn on from our Xlca2x, we'll be putting the remote wire, which in this case is our silver one, into our remote out. So let's get these hooked up, then we'll give you guys a visual. Now, the Xlca2x is just basically a bass restoration or line output converter with some extra settings here. So we're going to go over these settings very briefly. The load selection, we're going to be putting, in our case, 200 or 20 kilo ohms. We have 60 ohms and 20 ohms. Now those selections are for like Chrysler vehicles that have issues, not so much an issue, but if it doesn't read the correct ohm load, then that channel of the vehicle will shut off, such as the newer Dodge Rams and the Chrysler vehicles. So we have that. In our turn on modes, we have audio, DC offset, and remote turn on. So remote turn on, you'd put it in remote turn on if you had a remote lead coming into the unit to turn it on. Now we will be actually putting this into audio sense. Gonna find a little switch there. All right. Now ground isolation. If you guys are having whine issues or noise issues, you can play with this, but I normally put it at ground, and that allows the audio source and the Xlca2's ground to be shared. ISO will ground this separately, but obviously on the same chassis ground. And then you can add a little bit of resistance in there if you're still having issues. So, signal. That's the important part here. I went ahead, just for ease of access, pulled the plug for this radio for our speaker outputs, and bullet connected our leads here for our Xlca2x. So, we're gonna wanna do left and right, find your signal wires from the factory speakers. Plug these in. You can military splice them, which I'll show you guys that here in a second as well, if you're not separating your speaker wires from your factory system, rather than, or if you're actually tagging into. So get these all connected up, get these plugged in behind the radio, and then we'll show you guys how to hook these up. So now we got our signal hooked up to behind the radio. Now we're not going to worry about left and right today, but normally you would worry about the left input or the right input. And actually with these units, you can actually just pull one full range signal, or if you have a factory subwoofer, just pull the signal from there. Input here, but you're also going to grab yourself some jumpers for each of these wires. After I get this tightened down, I'll show you what I mean. And you can just jump over from the left input over to the right. So basically what you'll be doing is taking another wire from the positive over to the right positive, and then a negative from the left over to the right negative. That's it, just boop boop. But we're gonna go ahead and show you guys how to hook up both left and right today. And since this is a base restoration unit rather than a lock, it functions the same as a lock, but this just mainly focuses on bass. Let's get this hooked up. Now, if you already have an aftermarket radio or something like that where it has pre-outs, you can also input the signal that way using these jacks. Low level input rather than the high level from your door speakers. So now that we got everything hooked up, we can go ahead and plug in our RCAs to the output here, just like so. Now that we got everything hooked up, our signal, our power, our RCAs into our amplifier, we will be playing some audio to give a demonstration on how this powers on. You'll notice that this will power on first, the Xlca2x, and then the amplifier. So let's go ahead and play some music. So let's get to tuning. So after we get the signal, RCA's plugged in, all that good stuff. So what you're gonna wanna do is first tune your amplifier. Show you guys how to do that really quick. I've already pre-tuned it, but I'm just gonna give you guys an overview. The low pass filter, standard, I usually set it at 80 Hertz. Subsonic at about 20, depending on the woofer. This woofer can handle quite a bit of power, so we're gonna put it at 20. Should give it a nice low end bass. We always leave bass boost off because it can add distortion and cause issues later down the road. Now you guys may have noticed we have only plugged this into sub and put it in 5-channel mode. That is because, again, we're going to be using the Xlca2x strictly for bass today. The 44x, we'll show you guys how to wire that up and tune for highs as well. So let's get back over here. The Bass X Edge is for bass roll off on factory systems. So what that means is when you turn up the volume to a certain point, the bass will not get louder. And with this, you will turn this up or turn your radio up to the point where your bass does not get louder. Then you'll turn up the Bass X until this light turns on. But there we go. And then we'll just back it off just a little bit. Then we can control that level as well, so it filters in past that point from now on. You guys can probably hear a little bit of a difference, maybe not with the microphone, but in our case we're actually going to leave this all the way off for today because we're not going to have any bass roll off issues with our aftermarket radio. But again, this is a demonstration for factory stereos. So what we're going to do from here is go to your output level and turn it up until this clip light turns on. Or if your subwoofer is maximized before the clip light is indicated here, then just back it down to the point where you feel safe. Now the gain on the amplifier will be turned all the way down. So let's go ahead and give this a shot. See, the X boost actually did kick in there by itself. Now that clip light coming on. Like that. We're going to turn it down just a little bit so that clip light no longer shows up. Just like that. I'm just going to give it a little extra turn, a little bit. Now you'll want to play couple of songs just to make sure this clip light doesn't come on, and then you'll go to your pre-tuned amplifier and turn up the gain until the woofer is at its max or RMS power, however you want to look at it. And just like that. So the higher power through the RCAs, the less issues you'll have with noise and stuff coming into your amplifier, or I should say the output of your amplifier, because you don't have to turn your gain up so much and cause a lot of interference. So, as you can see, our subwoofer here is working. I do hear a little rattling, but I think it's this table here. Go ahead and wire up the Xloc44x. Alright, so now we're here with the Xloc44x. As you can see, it's quite different, but we can go over some of the settings here. If you only want to pull 2 signals like we have, we're going to run it in 2-channel mode, so it outputs on front output and rear output. If you were to put it in 4-channel mode, you'd have to have all 4 hooked up. All 4 signal inputs hooked up. So front left, front right, rear left, and rear right. Now we also have the load selection, just like the previous unit, the Xlca2x. Same thing. Low pass filter. Now this will only affect the rear output. So if you want to add a subwoofer to this, otherwise it's just going to output what it comes in. Just a little processed and stuff like that. Turn on mode. We're going to do DC offset for our case here. And we also have the ground isolation just like the Xlca2x. So let's get this hooked up. We're going to be following the same process: power ground, remote out, because we'll be using remote turn on signal from the Xlock here to power on, turn on the amplifier. Now you can use this remote out to power several amplifiers, not just one. All right, so we're going to get our signal input plugged in, left, right. Now, we're going to get our Bluetooth set up on the radio and stuff, and we'll be right back. So, for this installation and this unit, we don't actually have an audio turn on for this. And with our aftermarket unit there, we do not have a DC offset. So what we actually have to do is find a signal. So we actually already have a signal wire here, a remote turn on for this that will also turn on the amplifier. Get this hooked up. Get this on over to remote. Now, this remote wire happens to be controlled by our dyno here. There we go. Turn that all the way down. All right, so we got our unit powered on. Now we'll get to tuning. All right, so now that we're at this point, we are going to be using this signal output and this amplifier in 2-channel mode to actually go across all channels. The subwoofer and the speaker will be going. So how we're going to do this is go to your amplifier. We're going to be looking at a high pass filter. Since it's a little 4-inch, nothing too crazy in this little dash we had built here. I'm going to turn it up a little high, somewhere around 120, but normal speakers like 6.5 to 6x9s, 80 hertz is a good baseline to get this tuned in with. So I'm gonna come back over here to our Xloc44x. Make sure all of our settings are where we need them. 2-channel, load select, 200 kilo ohms, low pass is off. Again, the low pass only affects the rear output. We're not using that right now. So at this point, we would turn up the gain on the Xloc44x. So I'm gonna turn up the music, and we're looking for this clip light to turn on when we get too far ahead of ourselves here. So let's go ahead and show how that works. Gonna wait for some more music to come in so we don't turn it up too high and blow our speaker immediately. So, with this, the way it's set up, we're actually not going to get this clipping indicator to come on because we're not having a clip signal. So that's beautiful. What we're going to do is set it to about 3/4. And then, what we're going to do is come to our amplifier, and same thing with the subwoofer. We're going to turn it up until it doesn't sound so great, back it down a little bit, tune it in with our high pass and all that good stuff. So that wraps it up for today's video. We had basically tuned and showed you guys how to wire the Xloc44x and the Xlca2x. And it is worth mentioning that today's amplifier that we were using is the VAD 1100x5. Great amplifier. We use these in a lot of applications with some of our builds. So if you guys want to check out any of our products and or these line output converters, please visit our website at nvx.com. Thanks for watching.